Hello and a warm welcome to this webinar, Unlock the Secrets on How to Export and Import Successfully. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Sarah Hutchinson, founder and MD of Risa UK, a multi-award-winning freight forwarding company. Some of you may know me already, but for those that don't, I've worked in international trade for over 37 years. I started my career in manufacturing, working in export, and built my knowledge and experience to a role shipping explosives of marine distress signals and pyrotechnics to the Middle East. For those of you who are familiar with the Middle East, you'll know how difficult the paperwork can be, let alone exporting class 1 and 2 explosives under military licenses and complicated letters of credit. At this point, I decided I wanted to work full-time in sales, and I started applying for every job in the newspaper, as it was in those days. And the first company to offer me a job was a freight forwarder based in Southampton. This was a great start for me because Southampton is one of our largest ocean freight ports, and my area also covered Poole and Portsmouth, serving road freight to Europe. So that gave me a good grounding in both ocean and road freight. I was able to build on this with some great training along the way, and I travelled extensively overseas. And that gave me an understanding of how different things are in other countries, that behind the scenes look at freight forwarding that you wouldn't otherwise see. I got myself to a point where I had a team of salespeople and admin staff working for me. And I decided if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work this hard for myself. And I set up Risa in 2001. Put simply, we make it easy for businesses to import and export their goods around the world. And one of the things I've learned as part of doing this is seeing all of the avoidable mistakes that businesses make, which cause delays, cost them money, and sometimes completely wiping out any profit from a deal. And that's because they don't know how to do it properly. This gave me an idea, and I set up a training and consultancy company to teach businesses like yours how to do this correctly so that you make the money that you expected on your sales, and the cost of your purchases is also what you expected. Today, we're going to look at Incoterms and how they can hold companies back who trade internationally. So looking at how a company-wide approach will help you outcompete your competitors, where to start, and some surprising industry facts and statistics that you need to know to help you in your businesses. And then we're going to take a deep dive into three of the biggest and costly mistakes I see businesses make and how to avoid them. And what we're going to look at is understanding Ex Works and should it even be used for international trade, the complexity and risks of DDP, that's delivered duty paid, and can you comply with the rules, and why I don't recommend C&F, that's cost and freight, for imports, and how to avoid being caught out by unexpected costs and where you end up paying more than you expected. And also, for those of you who would like to work with me further, there will be an opportunity to do this. So this training is designed for businesses who don't have a dedicated logistics person, and this role is a bolt-on to your job, and you're feeling that you're muddling your way through the complexities of international trade, and instead you want to feel confident that you're getting it right. So if you're finding that your imports and exports are stressful, there's an underlying niggling worry that things aren't being done correctly, you're getting unexpected costs, and it's just that that feeling of that you're winging it, and you feel out of your depth. And so if you're feeling all or any of these, then you're in the right place. Because I want you to be in a position where you leave here today with the information you need and the peace of mind knowing how to identify and mitigate risks that impact relationships, repeat business, and your bottom line profit. And it's all designed so that you reap the rewards of global trade, you leave your competitors standing, and you make the money that you expected. So today I'm going to show you how to avoid 3 of the biggest mistakes that I see businesses make when using Incoterms. And this training is from one of the modules from my Logistics Mastery course. So let's start by talking about Incoterms in general, so that we're all clear as to what they mean and how to use them. So Incoterms stands for International Commercial Terms. They're issued by the International Chamber of Commerce, and they're a set of standard rules that are recognised around the world and have been since 1936. And at that point, they were brought in to stabilise trade after the First World War. They're published in 25 languages, and they're usually reviewed and reissued every 10 years. Now, as you can see from the top of this slide, we're currently working on the 2020 set of that were issued. And they clarify where risk and obligations and the cost transfers from the seller to the buyer in all aspects of the international transport journey. And they're covering the movement, the documents, insurance, and customs. So here on this slide, you can see with so many Incoterms, where do you start? Which one's best? And that's best for you and for your customers or suppliers. Now, Incoterms are used by multiple departments in your business, and the people within those departments have different levels of knowledge and experience of them. For example, if we look at purchasing, when buying products from overseas, you're negotiating the best price that you can, and you don't want to be in a position where your landed cost is more than you expected and impacting your profit margin. Looking at export sales, when selling goods overseas, you're negotiating to win orders for your business, and you want to make the profit margin that you expected. This can also impact the sales team, who have targets to meet, and potentially they aren't going to earn the commission they thought they would. And then finance, cash flow implications when things cost more than forecast, and also planning the purchase of foreign currency, for example, making sure that you have the right amount when you need it. And then on a more practical side, sales admin and dispatch, these people in your business are responsible for getting the paperwork correct. thinking here about insurance, customs clearance instructions. It's the forms that they're signing and the boxes that they are ticking on behalf of your company. You don't want a situation where they're just looking back at what was done last time and not understanding why they're doing what they're doing and the implications of it. So I can't stress enough the importance of a business-wide understanding of Incoterms for those people who deal internationally in your business. So they understand them and they're looking after your business's best interests, its profitability, and also making sure that you have happy repeat customers. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. This is part of an email exchange, and it's between two managing directors, one of which is our client who emailed us with information of a new order that they've got to move, but the Incoterms weren't clear. So I sent this email, and basically I was looking to find out, is your supplier selling to you on Incoterms FOB Shenzhen port or Xworks their factory? If it's the latter, can you let me have their address, please? Now, the reply from the supplier, who was based in Australia, but actually they were manufacturing the goods in China. So the MD there came back saying, not sure what Incoterms means, please explain. My understanding is the quote is FOB, not Xworks. Our client then went back saying, I don't know what Incoterms means, that hopefully there's enough information there for our freight forwarder. So yes, there was. We've got that clarity in the fact that it's FOB and not Xworks. But what struck me here was this grey area around the fact that neither seemed to know about the Incoterms and what had been negotiated, even though they're both very senior people within the business. Now, when considering the best Incoterm to use, a good place to start is to identify the countries where you are at most risk. Now, these facts and statistics come from a cargo theft and fraud report for 2023, and that's by the British Standards Institute and the TT Club. Now, looking at the left of this slide, you'll see the top countries for cargo theft. And some of them might surprise you, for example, Germany and Italy. Now, Germany accounts for more than half of the slash and grab raids on curtain-sided vehicles that are travelling through its country. The US is another one, and here it's more around a more strategic theft, where groups are stealing identities of customs brokers, so customs clearance agents here, and some of the carriers, and diverting cargo from its intended destination. Then South Africa, here it's criminal groups hijacking trucks, and you may have heard the term blue light gangs. So this is where people are impersonating police officers and they're using blue lights on their vehicles to pull over the trucks that are moving around. And then South America, here we're looking more at violent crime and hijackings. And Brazil and Ecuador are two that are particularly affected, but also Chile, Colombia, Argentina, and Peru. So if I was to say, how many of you consider whether you want to be responsible for the movement of your goods in these countries at the time that you're either quoting potential customers or indeed when you're looking at suppliers there, and whether you want to take responsibility for the movement of the goods within that country? Another good place to look is the Public Sector Corruption Perception Index. And this one's from 2023. I will caveat this by saying that please remember this is based on public sector, but my experience has taught me that the private sector very much doesn't mirror this. So here we've got 100 countries and they're scored between 1 and 100. Not 100 countries. We've got the countries here that are scored between 1 and 100. 100 being the best in yellow and 1 being the worst in red. It does surprise me a little bit that the UK is 71 and the US is 69. I would have liked to have thought that we were higher up in the rankings than that. And just to give you a little bit more of a perspective here with the colours and potentially where your business is at greater risk. So if you're not experienced exporters and indeed importers, and you're only dipping your toe in or want to dip your toe in as you start, then looking more at the yellow and the orange countries and regions here is a good place to start. And then as you get more experience, if you want to look at the orange and then moving into the red, then yeah, you've got the experience and more know-how on that. Now, we don't have enough time to go into this in more detail today, but on my Logistics Mastery course, we do look at this in more detail. We look at different regions of the world and the most appropriate Incoterm to be used. And we might be looking at, for example, countries that are landlocked or how stable are they politically. These are some of the things to consider so that you don't get caught out by using the wrong Incoterm and to ensure that you make the money that you expect on your sales and your landed goods on your purchases are what, or the cost of those goods is what you expected. So let's move on now and look at 3 Incoterms where we regularly see businesses struggle. The reason why and how you, what you can do to mitigate the risks within your business. Starting with Ex Works, I'm particularly here for export, and this is an Incoterm where the buyer takes control of everything. So an important question is this term, should it be used for international trade? Now, in my opinion, the answer is no, it shouldn't, because the seller makes the goods available for collection by the buyer. So that would be you as the exporter, making them available for collection by your customer, and delivery is completed without transport. So this makes it a domestic term. And so many businesses love Ex Works because they see it as an easy option, because they think they don't have to do anything and they don't have to worry about anything. And, you know, often that reality is quite different, even down to something as simple as your customer asking you, you know, where's the order? Has it been picked up yet? Has it left the country? Even though they're the ones who have, it's their freight forwarder that they've chosen to arrange the transport, they're coming to you for the information rather than the freight forwarder. And again, when looking at Ex Works, I don't recommend it because of the fact you're waving goodbye. You know, as you're waving goodbye to that lorry that's pulling out of your yard, you lose control of what happens next. How do you know that those goods have been exported? You have VAT obligations and you need evidence that they departed the UK. If you can't prove this and have a VAT inspection or HMRC audit, you will be charged the VAT, which will most likely be 20%, which is what it is for most goods, for that transaction, and potentially fined. And of course, when you think about some of these invoice values that you're raising are high values. And if you're going to be charged another 20%, potentially that's wiped out any profit that you made on the deal, and maybe even taken you into a loss situation. So the evidence that you need from HMRC, whether it's for a HMRC audit or a VAT inspection, what you need to prove is the goods departed this country. Now, as you can see on this one, it shows departed at the bottom of the customs clearance, which I've highlighted in yellow. Now, this particular entry is from the chief system, which is no longer being used. But given that we need to keep records for 6 years plus the current year, and it was only phased out towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year, you still need to keep these on as part of your records so that you can prove that they left the country. And this is the new system, the CDS system, HM Revenue and Customs system. And again, this is at the bottom of your customs clearance. And here you can see it says declaration status departed, and then it actually puts the time and the date at which either that vehicle left the country, the ocean freight vessel left the country, or indeed the aircraft left this country. So a top tip here is use Incoterm free carrier, as it is a better option, as you are responsible for arranging the export customs clearance, which will probably cost you about £35, just depending how many tariff headings are involved. It might be slightly more. But crucially, you have the proof of export, because with free carrier, you're paying for the export customs clearance. And often people will say to me, oh yeah, but it means we've got to incur the cost now of getting it to the freight forwarder's warehouse. Well, you don't have to, because you can name the dispatch point, so the place where it's collected by the freight forwarder. So if you're based in Coventry and that's where the goods are that are being collected, then you can put free carrier Coventry CV2, whatever your postcode is, so that you don't incur any delivery costs to the freight forwarder. The second Incoterm that we're going to look at is delivered duty paid. Now, I could talk about this for about half an hour, but I'm not going to. But this is a complex term to use, as you are responsible to pay the duty in the country where your customer is based. It offers your customer maximum protection and the least responsibility. So that's resulting in you bearing all the risk. You are responsible for the import customs formalities, which requires the declarant, that's the company who's named as the importer, which is you, to be established in that territory. So can you comply with rules of establishment? To be established, your business must have one of the following in that country: a registered office, central headquarters, permanent business establishment where staff are permanently employed, and where the technical resources of the business are also present. And customs operations must be wholly or partly carried out there. You will also be asked to prove evidence of establishment, and that evidence can include a certificate of registration issued by the Registrar of Companies, details of where staff are employed and the work that they carry out, physical premises owned or leased by the business, also details of contracts, orders, or invoices held or issued by the business, and proof that the business has its own accounts. So it's easy to underestimate the importance of this, but it's imperative if you are responsible for the customs clearance. There is another way that you could approach this, and that is you could use a fiscal representative. Now, a fiscal representative is or would need to be a registered business, so an accountant, for example, in that country, and they will act as a local representative for you, managing any queries and filing obligations with the tax authorities in that country. It is normal practice that you, the exporter, would need to provide a security deposit or a bank guarantee. And the value of this is usually calculated on the annual estimated taxable turnover of the business that you're going to do in that country annually. And this is to mitigate against potential risk, because that fiscal representative is jointly and severally liable for the money that you owe to the tax authorities in that country. So they are taking on a risk. So this helps to mitigate that by you depositing money or a guarantee, a bank guarantee. Now, this is a really good example to highlight the impact that this can have on your business. I was contacted by this company to help them find a solution on how to fulfill this order on DDP terms. The contract was negotiated prior to Brexit, when supplying on DDP terms wasn't a problem, because of course we were part of the EU. Unfortunately, the contract wasn't fulfilled until after Brexit, which presented them with a problem on how they were going to be able to get these goods into Italy, because they weren't established in Italy. So what we've got here is we've got a contract between a UK seller and an Italian buyer. Some parts of the machine were produced in the UK, so that meant that they were GB origin goods. And also there was a subcontractor manufacturing a mainframe and the rest of the machine. And this subcontractor was based in Italy. So their business wasn't established in Italy. So this is where the complexities are with this deal. So the first complexity is how you're going to produce the paperwork to get the UK manufactured goods to the Italian subcontractor for them to fit to the frame and to build this machine. So in this scenario, they are both the exporter and the importer, because they're supplying goods that they own. They're not selling them. The second complexity is then about producing the paperwork to get the finished machine from the Italian subcontractor to the Italian buyer of the machine. They achieved this by using Regime 42, which is a customs regime which allowed them to customs clear the parts into free circulation at the French border, and then moved them with an inter-community supply of goods to another EU member state, and in this case, that's Italy. So it required them to be able to do this, they had to set up a power of attorney with a customs agent to undertake the import formalities at the French border. They had to set up a fiscal mandate to appoint a tax agent, so the tax accountant, and register for VAT and Intrastat in Italy. They needed to apply for an EU EORI number, so that's an Economic Operators Registration Identification number. And the Italian buyer also had to sign a Regime 42 process document confirming that they understood that the goods are being customs cleared in France, but they still needed to account for the VAT in their purchased records. Now, after all of this, they did have one bit of luck, because the UK company didn't have to pay duty because the goods were of GB and EU origin, so that they fell within the terms of the free trade agreement that we have with the EU. Now, again, I don't have time to cover the rules of origin today, but this is another set of complex rules that you must understand when you're trading internationally. And it's something as well that I cover as part of my Logistics Mastery course. So moving now on to the third Incoterm, and that's cost and freight, so C&F. And I'm particularly referring to here for it not to be used for imports. And this is the advice that we give to all of our clients. And this is because you're going to give away control of the most expensive part of the logistics journey to your supplier. Now, certain regions of the world are particularly keen to offer this. China and India, for instance, and your supplier wants to control and pay the shipping to the UK port or to the airport. Now, to be fair, the cost is most likely to be cheaper than you can get it for. So, you know, that makes it sound very attractive. But unfortunately, there's a sting in the tail here, and it's the handover costs and fees when it arrives at the UK border, at the UK port. And you will end up with a shopping list of charges which inflate the cost to you. And this is because the supplier is being offered an incentive, which can be as much as no cost to them. And then all of those charges are added to your account here in the UK. So what happens is the receiving freight forwarder will invoice these charges up front to your freight forwarder that you're using to take care of the UK side of things. But your freight forwarder can't get these goods released until they've paid the receiving agent for their bill, and they literally can charge you whatever they want. So here's an example. This is a relatively small order. It's 45 cartons, 987 kilos, 3.4 cubic meters. And what we're looking at here is it's from Yantian port in China to delivered Hull. So on C&F Incoterms, the ocean freight cost, the bit from Yantian to Felixstowe port, would be included as part of the sell rate on the supplier's invoice to you. So I haven't added that into the Felixstowe port to delivered costs. But what you're looking there is the handover agent on this particular example was looking for £909.40, and that was just for the UK charges. We looked at it, and had the terms been FOB Yantian port, we could have done that whole transaction for £672. So what we've got there is a £237.40 more expensive than we could do it for. And don't forget, include that it would be more than that, because the ocean freight portion has actually been charged on your supplier's invoice. And also, don't forget, this is a relatively small order. So the bigger the order, the bigger the difference. And, you know, it's too late at this point. And when we discuss it with our clients, when this does happen, and we hear things like, it's not fair, that can't be right, what can we do about it? But unfortunately, there's nothing, because it's a way they do business in these countries. It's part of their culture. And this is an example of buyer beware, and why you need to understand this. And this is one of the reasons why I do this training. It's to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. And there's one other important point to consider as part of this, and that is, what's the transit time? Because it's most likely that your supplier is going to pick or use the slowest service available, because they're going to be looking for the best price, because they're incurring the cost to get it here. So again, you're giving away control to your supplier on something that you most likely want here quickly. You know, it's also quite possible that you've either fully paid or part paid for the goods up front, and it's costing you money. So the sooner you get them here, the sooner you can either sell them or use them. So you lose control when you give away control. My advice, if you're going to use C&F terms for import, is to ask your supplier to confirm the ocean freight cost as part of their selling price to you. You then want the information from their receiving agent, the freight forwarder's receiving agent here in the UK, on what they're going to charge as their fees and their handover fees. And then your freight forwarder that you're using for the UK part of it, the customs clearance and the delivery, ask them their charges. So you're adding those three together to give you your total cost. And then ask your freight forwarder to give you an FOB to delivered door cost. And then here you're understanding the facts, and you can make an informed choice. Without this, you can end up with a situation where it impacts your landed costs and you don't make the profit that you thought you would. Now, we've only got 60 minutes today, and we've looked at why a company-wide approach to Incoterms is important for the success of your business. And we've also looked in depth at 3 Incoterms, but there's 11 in total. And what I've talked to you, it's just the first step in the right direction. But there's still lots more to consider. But you know, it's impossible to do that in an hour. So in my logistics mastery course, I teach you how to use them correctly for buying and selling internationally, because you need all the information to make sure that you choose the right one, and that you remain fully compliant with HMRC and don't get fined. You understand the complexity of the rules and don't get caught out by the legal consequences that are time consuming and expensive to resolve, particularly if these are things that are happening overseas. And you don't give away control of the goods and end up losing money on the deal. So I'm going to take a few minutes to talk through the logistics mastery course, so that you know whether this would be right for you or not. Module 1, we look at export excellence, and here we're unveiling the secrets of the documentation, the export evidence, HMRC requirements, Learn how to successfully complete your paperwork, to keep your orders moving, and to avoid unexpected costs. Module 2 is import insights. Here, it's about mastering those import processes and demystifying the valuation methods, how to calculate duty and VAT payments, and understand how to determine your landed cost so that you don't end up paying more than you expected for your goods. We also dive into the world of GSPs and the opportunities that they bring to reduce or remove your duty payments from certain parts of the world. And then for module 3, we've started looking at this today with Incoterms, and it's about understanding how to use them correctly when buying and selling internationally, so that you don't find yourself under investigation by HMRC or struggling with the complexity of legal systems in other countries, costing you time and money. Module 4 is navigating customs codes and tariffs. And here we explore the commodity codes, the tariff headings, we look at binding tariffs and trade remedies so that you have a smoother trade journey. Then module 5, HMRC Harmony. You'll get here an understanding of the CDS system, customs procedure codes, CPCs, so that you have a seamless transactions with HMRC, and you avoid the pitfalls of insufficient information and incorrect or missing paperwork, causing your orders to be held up at the border and costly delays. Module 6 is Rules of Origin Unravelled. And here we untangle the complexities of rules of origin, and you will learn how to leverage free trade agreements for your global trade advantage, so that you can outcompete your competitors. Module 7 is Customs Magic. And we unlock the potential of special and simplified customs procedures and authorizations, including inward and outward processing, carnets, AEO status, and returned goods relief. These will all help to limit or remove the amount of taxes that you pay HMRC. And then module 8, navigating the unexpected. So we explore the world of cargo management so that your goods arrive in perfect condition. We will look at crucial procedures that protect your business from fines and legal consequences, and that includes how to handle dangerous goods. So by the end of this course, the person responsible for managing your company's imports and exports will have the confidence and the know-how to streamline your operations, so they no longer are worried about missing crucial details or feeling anxious about unforeseen issues. Instead, they'll feel in control and ready to handle your logistics with ease, making their job more satisfying and rewarding. To give you a little bit of information about the course, it's an online course, so there's no travelling involved, and therefore it will take the minimum amount of time out of the working day. Starts on Friday the 18th of October for 8 weeks, so you will have learned everything you need to know by Christmas for a fresh start in January 25. Starts at 10 a.m. for 1 hour. So again, what I've tried to do is just give you some time to get in the morning and do any urgent work that needs doing, grab a cup of coffee so that we're ready to start at 10 o'clock. I deliver it live, And there is the opportunity to ask questions and to share experiences as a group. The last course that I ran, it was a very collaborative group, and we did quite a lot of extra work where they asked questions, and the answers on how to do whatever it was, I shared with the whole group on each session that we had together. There's also email support from me during the course to help you with any challenges that you have. And you'll also get access to the recordings so you can refer back to them if and when you need to. So the investment for this is £597 plus VAT. And, if you're hesitating and thinking, okay, well, why this course and why Sarah? Then my reply is that this course is different to others because I own a freight forwarding company and understand where businesses struggle because we are moving clients' goods around the world every day. And we see all of the common avoidable mistakes that they make, which we then help them to resolve. So this course is the practical stuff that you need to know so that you don't make these mistakes, which will cost you money, reputation, and potentially customers. It's a deliberate decision on my part to keep the cost of the course competitively priced because I want to make it an easy decision to commit your time to join me and to recoup this return on investment by implementing what you've learnt, by making extra profit, and by reducing the unexpected costs and challenges in your business. In fact, my promise to you is if you buy the course and implement what I teach, you'll make this investment back. So this is another example why this course is so important. A company came to us for help after their container was selected for a physical examination on arrival at New York Port in the USA. The examination found untreated wood had been used, which was a shock to the UK company because the goods were actually stacked on ISPM 15 heat-treated pallets. It turned out that when they were loading the container at their premises, some untreated wood that was lying around in the warehouse was used for blocking and bracing the goods to secure them into position for the duration of the journey. So what actually happened was the container wasn't even allowed to leave the New York port. It was simply turned around and sent back to the UK, where they had to then resecure the goods with compliant wood and then they were able to return the goods back to the USA. The financial impact of this mistake was an additional £13,000 worth of shipping costs. They're now a client of ours, and several people within their business have been through this course to make sure that something like that doesn't happen again. And this is a testimonial from Jane Brown. So we met Sarah at a Department for Business and Trade event and saw her presentation on understanding the fundamentals of logistics. It really struck a chord with me around how little we understood about export and were muddling through, knowing at some point we would do something wrong, which would cost us money and potentially lose a customer. We signed up 3 members of the team to the next Logistics Mastery course, one of which was me, and it was amazing. It wasn't until then that we realised just how much we were doing wrong. All new starters to our international team are now booked on this training because we see the value it brings to our business. Thank you, Sarah. So Jane's company is exactly the type of business that this course is designed for. There was a number of people dabbling with their exports, but the good thing was they understood that they were out of their depth and they needed to do something about it. So I'm also going to make a special offer today, because if you know you need this training, I don't want you to leave and do nothing. And then in 6 months' time, nothing's changed in your business and you're still muddling through. So this offer is to encourage you to go ahead and make the decision to work with me today, and just copy the link if you can. It's logisticsmasterycourse.eventbrite.co.uk, and when you get there, go to buy the course. The promo code is LM200, and you will get it for £397 plus VAT. And it also feels really important to me that if you're watching this and you know that learning what I teach is the thing that is going to make the difference to your business, I don't want you to put it off, the decision, for another 6 months. I want to encourage you to take that leap and to join me now. So for that reason, I'm including a fast action bonus. So the first 5 people to sign up will get 1 hour with me to work on areas of your business where you need help. And this is valued at £500. And I'm so confident in the value of my course, I'm also giving 100% money back guarantee. If you're not entirely satisfied by the end of the 8 weeks, I will give you a full refund. All I ask is that you please tell me why you didn't feel it was worth the money. So sign up now and secure your place, and make sure you put the date in your calendar to join me on Friday, the 18th of October at 10 a.m. They're all presented by me, so you get direct access to my 37 plus years of experience and expertise. So the promo code is LM200 to get the course for £397 plus VAT. The first 5 people who sign up will get 1 hour with me as a fast action bonus. Starts Friday the 18th of October for 8 weeks. It's delivered live. There's email support, and the recordings are available as well. And the email address is logisticsmasterycourse.eventbrite.co.uk/. Brilliant. Okay. Well, look, thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you've enjoyed and indeed learnt some really valuable things for your business today. Thank you. Thank you very much.